So have you ever found yourself struggling with binge eating, even though you're eating regular meals, you're eating breakfast, lunch and dinner with snacks in between, but somehow you still feel like you need the urge to binge eat in the evenings, or have a massive amount of cookies, cakes, donuts and crisps? In this video, I'm going to talk about the 3 things which are causing you to binge eat even though you're eating regular meals. So number 1 is what's called mental restriction. So even though you're eating regular meals, are those meals actually enjoyable? Because to overcome binge eating, you have to be full and satisfied. Are you being full and satisfied? Because I could eat chicken, broccoli and rice, the bro diet, the gym diet essentially, and still struggle with binge eating because it's not something I really enjoy. It's bland, it's dry, it has no flavor at all. If I was to have garlic honey chicken with egg fried rice and steamed broccoli, then I'm much less likely to overeat or struggle with binge eating because I'm actually enjoying those meals. So make sure that you're full and satisfied, and maybe also think to yourself, are you actually avoiding certain foods? Because we can volume eat as much as we want. We can eat as high protein, high fiber meals as much as we want. But if we're not filling in the psychological satisfaction of food or having certain foods, we're avoiding them for a certain reason because they're bad, you're still gonna crave those foods even more. So if I want a cookie in my head and I go for a glass of water or a banana instead, I'm still gonna be thinking about that cookie throughout the day because my mental craving, my psychological craving for that food is still gonna be there, still gonna be lingering unless I have that cookie. So remember, there's no shame in having a cookie just because you crave it, as long as you're making sure that you're eating regular meals and you're being 8 out of 10 full, not 10 out of 10 with your Christmas dinner full, or 0 out of 10 which you're nauseously hungry. If you're being 8 out of 10 full, around that area, then you're much less likely to overeat. Make sure you just eat that cookie and then get on with the day. Another thing I want to talk about with mental restriction is there's this thing called the forbidden fruit theory in science. Or shall we say, we want anything that we try to avoid. We crave things that we try to avoid. It's a shiny object syndrome, but it also happens with food. So if I avoid this cookie because I think it's bad, it's gonna ruin my diet, then I'm gonna want to think about it more and more and more. And then every time I walk across the cookie aisle, for example, in shopping markets, I'm gonna want them even more because I've had this shiny object syndrome or this forbidden fruit effect towards cookies. The same thing happens in the opposite. If I have cookies again and again and again, I binge ate the cookies, then if I were to hypothetically have cookies for breakfast, cookies for snack, cookies for lunch, I'm gonna be put off by cookies. So the forbidden fruit effect happens both ways. If I want something and I avoid it, then I'm gonna want it even more. If I have too much of it, then I'm not gonna want it anymore. So we need to have the fine balance of just having it as part of your diet. Have a cookie as a dessert, or maybe make your meals as enjoyable as possible. There are lots of recipes online, healthy recipes, which are also very delicious. I prefer to make my meals almost like Chinese takeaway style, where they're like egg fried rice. Just because of my Filipino heritage, I like egg fried rice, garlic fried rice, spam, all those kinds of things. You can make meals really, really healthy. Another thing which could perpetuate mental restriction is if you try to make your meals as low calorie as possible, you're trying to avoid, let's say, like that garlic honey chicken, which I really enjoy because it's extra calories. It's extra calories to add sauces, it's extra calories to add oil, extra calories to add egg. Try to avoid this mindset of, oh, it's going to be extra calories if I have this. It's going to be extra calories if I add more honey to this or olive oil to this meal. Under eating calories, if you're avoiding calories as much as possible to make your meal as low calorie as possible, that's a massive trigger to binge eating because your body's not being psychologically satisfied. If you're struggling with binge eating, what I highly recommend, if you watch my previous videos, that binge eating is a symptom, it's not a problem. It's a symptom that your body's thinking, I'm massively under eating calories, I'm not getting enough calories in throughout the day, or I'm not getting any psychological enjoyment with the meals, which is mental restriction. So put dieting on hold, make the meals as enjoyable as much as possible, and eliminate any mental restriction. And don't hold yourself back if you want a cookie or you want a few crisps. There's no such thing as bad foods. That's how you eliminate mental restriction. Because it's important to remember that our body's hunger cues are not determined by our mechanical fullness, but also our psychological satisfaction for food. So I hope that makes sense. And before we move on to number 2, then I highly recommend that you check out my hunger regulation ebook, which is completely free. And it's called a hunger regulation ebook because when we struggle with binge eating, our hunger signals are all over the place. We don't feel really hungry in the mornings because you're so used to dieting in the mornings, having tiny meals in the mornings. And then we feel extremely hungry in the evenings. You feel like your hunger or your cravings hit you like a truck in the evenings. So the Hunger Regulation ebook, which is in the link in the description, talks about mechanical eating. So mechanical eating is eating regularly throughout the day to overcome these extremely ravenous hunger cues in the evening. Eliminate any massive cravings which will hit you like a truck in the evening. So check that out. So now moving on to number 2 is a Last Supper mindset towards foods. So the Last Supper mindset is like, okay, I'm gonna have a binge eating episode. I'm gonna enjoy it as much as possible. I'm gonna eat as much as I can so I can get as much satisfaction, which will propel me to stick to my extremely strict diet. Once I finish this binge eating episode, I'm gonna cut out all the cupboards from any chocolates, cookies, donuts. I'm gonna clear them all out, put them in the bin, throw the bin away. Next time I'm gonna go shopping, I'm gonna only buy quinoa, kale, only clean foods, and all those kinds of things. So having this Last Supper mindset towards food is making your body much more vulnerable to binge eating because it makes you feel like you're walking on glass. Like, oh, I'm thinking about a cookie right now. If I eat one tiny bite of the cookie, then I completely ruined my diet. And then I failed being on a perfect diet. I failed it. There's no point in just continuing my diet anymore. I'm just gonna just have a massive binge eating episode. I ruined it. And then I'll start again on Monday. It's this all or nothing mindset, perfect or not perfect. The tricky thing struggling with the Last Supper mindset towards food is that you're constantly thinking about food. To overcome binge eating, you shouldn't be thinking about food in the first place. The more you think about food, the more likely, the more opportunities you are to have a binge eating episode. So to avoid this Last Supper mindset, 2 things I highly recommend that you do is to make sure that all foods fit. As we talked about with mental restriction, all foods fit. Make the meals as enjoyable as possible. Still keep the cookies and donuts there. And another little caveat is that if you struggle with ADHD, then keeping foods in the house won't work. If you don't have ADHD, then it will work. But if you struggle with ADHD, then I highly recommend that you check this video out because the advice is different. You can't keep cookies in your house. You can't keep crisps in your house because your ADHD brain is going to have intense cravings for it. It's different advice. So check that out if you have ADHD. But if you don't have ADHD, then keep on continuing with this video. So with the Last Supper mindset, highly recommend you to keep the foods in, but try not to be on all or nothing mindset. There's no good, there's no bad, there's no angelic, there's no sinful, there's no junk food, there's no dirty food, there's no clean food. Try to avoid that. See foods, try to reframe your mindset as more nutritious, less nutritious. More nutritious is like a salmon meal, like salmon and fried rice. Less nutritious is chocolate. But both of them contain lots of magnesium and zinc. Chocolate has a place. Each food is either for satisfaction also, or you could see each food as for nutrition. There's no good, no bad. All foods fit. So if you avoid this all or nothing mindset, then you're much less likely to overeat. And it could be the reason why you're still struggling with binge eating, even though you're eating regular meals. And as cliche as it sounds, you're trying to build a lifestyle around this eating. There is no time limit. Ask yourself, everything I'm eating right now, could I continue this for 6 months? Effortlessly. Because sure, some people might say, yeah, I can continue it for 6 months, but you're literally gritting your teeth. Can I continue this for 6 months and not have it affect my social life? Not have any anxiety or worry if like a meal is cooked for me and goes out of my macros, all those kinds of things. Can I continue it effortlessly? Because remember, we can't use willpower with this Last Supper mindset. Willpower is a limited resource. Once willpower disappears, then binge eating episodes will start to come in. Number 3 is people pleasing. So even though you're eating regular meals, you could be struggling with binge eating still because of a people pleasing mindset. So if you're a people pleaser, then it might sound strange, but you'll struggle with binge eating. I used to be a chronic people pleaser and struggling with binge eating. So what happens here is when you're a people pleaser, you're masking in your true emotions. And when you try to prevent your emotions from truly showing up, then it has to demonstrate itself in binge eating episodes or in the evenings when you're alone and you're vulnerable to your emotions. You can finally let yourself out. If you're a people pleaser, you might disagree with this. That's a sign you might be a people pleaser. So get ready. So you're a people pleaser if you think there's nothing wrong with you. I'm really enjoying serving these people. I love helping people every single day. I love saying yes. I would never say no. That's a sign that you're a people pleaser, because if you're a people pleaser, you would also try to make way for other people. Like, someone asks you, oh, Jonathan, could you help me paint my house because I'm going away for the weekend? Oh yeah, I could do that. Let me see, I have dinner with my family, or I'm having my chill day, but I have nothing else to do. It's my relaxing day. I just want to read the book, but it's okay. That can be pushed away. That can be pushed forward. I can always make room for you. That's a sign that you're a people pleaser. And when you're a people pleaser, then you're always saying yes to things. And deep down, you're doing this because you want other people to like you. You think that you're doing it for noble reasons, but people are actually taking advantage of you. And the more they're trying to take advantage of you and ask for more and more favors, then the more your self-esteem goes lower and lower and lower, because your self-respect actually gets lower because you think you're doing it for noble reasons, but deep down you're just a people pleaser and you're being used and you're struggling with binge eating. If you never say no, then people are just going to be trampling over you. You know deep down that if you're a people pleaser and you're always saying yes, that your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-respect is going lower and lower and lower. There's nothing wrong with saying yes, but if you're saying yes to everything, then you're just going to be struggling with binge eating. You might be struggling with binge eating as well, that you might be seeing these people-pleasing tendencies, doing things for other people as a reward for yourself. There's nothing more worthy of respect when you say no to other people. So there's a fine balance. So what I want you to do as a little exercise is, if someone asks you for a favor, look at your calendar, and if you have to move anything, or you have any, like even 1% of you not wanting to do it, then just say no. And then you'll see that people will actually be alright with it. Any people who start to get a bit defensive or aggressive, then are they even actually your friends, or are they actually taking advantage of you? So I can go into a whole spiel about that, but you can check this video out on the video card over here about how being an empath is causing you to binge eat. So number 4, the final thing which could be causing you to binge eat even though you're eating regular meals is because you're adding morality to foods. And we touched upon this earlier about adding morality to foods. But if you're calling foods good, bad, clean, dirty, organic, sinful, angelic, then we start to internalize these feelings towards yourself. So you're eating good foods, okay, good, okay, eating quinoa, all those kale, good food people say. But if you eat a bad food, then you think yourself as bad, you think to yourself as piggy, you think to yourself as sinful. Oh, I've been greedy, I've been sinful eating these foods. You start to internalize it, and you might not feel it at first or at all, but subconsciously you're constantly thinking to yourself, okay, I've just ingested this food which I call bad, so I'm a bad person. And you might not feel it, but like you're thinking about food 24/7. Whenever you see a food, you see, oh, that's bad. Oh, those look really naughty on the food stalls. Oh, that cupcake looks delicious, but it looks so naughty, so devilish. Oh, I'm not gonna want these foods. Or maybe I want these foods, but like the more you have these food thoughts, then it's gonna make you want to go crazy around these foods. And you're constantly thinking about these foods, and it's gonna make you want to crave these foods even more. Start a binge eating episode. Maybe in the evening when you're sticking to your diet, you watch something, maybe like an advertisement shows up. Okay, that looks really delicious. I'm gonna start ordering food on takeaway right now. So that's gonna be triggering these binge eating episodes. So avoid calling foods good and bad. Call them more nutritious, less nutritious, as we mentioned earlier, or a food for satisfaction, or am I eating this food for nutrition? Because we're trying to avoid any internal conflict. One of the key triggers to binge eating is internal conflict. And if you're constantly having internal conflict, oh, should I have this? Oh, should I have this? Should I stick to my diet, or should I have this cheat day? Do I deserve this? Do I not deserve this? All these internal conflicts is gonna lead you to struggle with binge eating. So I'll leave it to these 4 tips for now, but if you really enjoyed this video, I highly recommend you check this video out. Really good video. And as we mentioned earlier, check the link in the description for the Hunger Regulation Framework ebook, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya!